The human body is fragile, yet the human spirit is nearly indestructible. Most of us will never know what it's like to be pushed to the absolute edge of existence. But for a few, survival wasn't a choice, it was a brutal, minute-by-minute battle against impossible odds. Today, we are counting down the 10 most extreme survival stories in human history. These are accounts of individuals who faced freezing temperatures, starvation, isolation, and physical trauma that should have been fatal. They didn't just survive, they defied every law of science and probability. Prepare to witness the incredible power of the will to live. Let's look at the moments when ordinary people became extraordinary. Number 10. Juliane Koepcke, the Amazon Fall. In 1971, a 17-year-old girl was flying over the Peruvian rainforest when her plane was struck by lightning. The aircraft disintegrated mid-air, and Juliane fell 2 miles through the sky while still strapped to her seat. She woke up on the jungle floor with a broken collarbone and deep gashes, the sole survivor of the crash. For 11 days, she waded through crocodile-infested waters and fought off infection. She followed a stream, knowing it would eventually lead to civilization. Her knowledge of the jungle, learned from her biologist parents, was the only thing that kept her alive until she found a small boat and was rescued. Number 9. Mauro Prosperi, the Sahara sidetrack. During a 150-mile ultramarathon in the Sahara Desert, an intense sandstorm blinded Italian runner Mauro Prosperi. He lost the trail and wandered into the heart of the desert, hundreds of miles off course. To stay hydrated, he was forced to drink his own urine and eat bats he found in an abandoned shrine. He walked for 9 days in temperatures exceeding 120 degrees Fahrenheit. By the time he was found by a nomadic family, he had lost nearly 40 pounds and his liver was failing. His story is a testament to the fact that sometimes, the mind can drag a dying body across the finish line. Number 8. Stephen Callahan, 76 Days Adrift. Stephen was an experienced sailor whose boat sank in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean during a storm. He escaped onto a tiny 6-foot inflatable life raft with only a few pounds of food and a basic survival kit. For 76 days, he drifted across 1,800 miles of open ocean. He fought off sharks with a makeshift spear and used solar stills to create tiny amounts of drinking water. His raft began to leak, and he had to constantly pump out water while battling severe sunburn and salt sores. When he finally drifted into the Caribbean and was spotted by fishermen, he was a living skeleton who had mastered the art of survival at sea. Number 7. Harrison O'Keefe, the Sunken Breath. In 2013, a tugboat capsized and sank 100 feet to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Nigeria. Harrison, the ship's cook, found himself trapped in a tiny 4-foot air pocket inside the sunken vessel. He spent nearly 3 days in total darkness, listening to the sound of sea creatures scavenging the rest of the ship. The water was freezing, and he was slowly running out of oxygen. Divers sent to recover bodies were shocked when a hand reached out from the darkness and grabbed them. He's the only person known to have survived for that long at such a depth without diving equipment. Number 6. Beck Weathers, the Everest Miracle. During the infamous 1996 Everest disaster, Beck Weathers was left for dead twice in the death zone. He was caught in a blinding blizzard and collapsed, falling into a hypothermic coma. Other climbers checked him and, believing he was gone, left him to save others. Incredibly, Beck woke up 15 hours later, his hands frozen solid and his face blackened by frostbite. Driven by a vision of his family, he stood up and literally walked back to camp. He lost his nose and parts of his hands, but he survived a night that claimed the lives of 8 other climbers. Number 5. Joe Simpson, touching the void. While descending a 20,000-foot peak in the Andes, Joe Simpson broke his leg. His climbing partner, Simon Yates, tried to lower him down the mountain but eventually had to cut the rope to save his own life. Joe fell into a deep crevasse, and Simon returned to base camp, certain Joe was dead. Joe survived the fall and, despite a shattered leg, crawled for 3 days across glaciers and rocks. He arrived at base camp just hours before Simon was said to leave. It is considered the greatest survival story in the history of mountaineering. Number 4. Aron Ralston, 127 hours. Aron was hiking alone in a remote Utah canyon when an 800-pound boulder shifted and pinned his right arm against the wall. He was trapped for 5 days with almost no water and no way to call for help. Knowing he would die if he stayed, he made the agonizing decision to amputate his own arm using a dull multi-tool. He then had to rappel down a 65-foot wall and hike miles before finding help. His story redefined the concept of courage and the physical cost of freedom. Number 3. Poon Lim, the longest float. Poon Lim holds the world record for the longest time spent surviving on a life raft at sea. After his ship was torpedoed during World War II, he spent 133 days alone in the South Atlantic. He caught birds and fish to eat and kept himself physically active to prevent his muscles from wasting away. When he was finally rescued near the coast of Brazil, he was able to walk off the boat unaided. His calm demeanor and disciplined approach to survival helped him endure 4 months of isolation. Number 2. The Andes flight disaster in 1972. A plane carrying a rugby team crashed in the frozen peaks of the Andes. The survivors spent 72 days in sub-zero temperatures with no food. Faced with starvation, they had to make the ultimate taboo choice to eat the remains of those who had died. 2 of the survivors, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, eventually hiked for 10 days over the mountains to find help. Their story is a harrowing look at the ethical and physical boundaries of survival. Number 1. Douglas Mawson, the home of the blizzard. In 1912, Australian explorer Douglas Mawson was on an Antarctic expedition when his 2 companions and most of their supplies were lost. He was left alone, hundreds of miles from his base, with almost no food and failing health. He suffered from extreme vitamin A poisoning, which caused his skin to peel off in sheets. At one point, he fell into a crevasse and was saved only by his sledge getting wedged in the ice. He spent 30 days walking through the most brutal weather on Earth, arriving at his base just as his ship was disappearing over the horizon. He survived through sheer, stubborn refusal to die. These stories prove that humans are capable of far more than we imagine. When everything is taken away, the only thing that remains is the choice to keep going. Never underestimate the power of your own spirit,